Thursday, 9 in the morning, and everything you need to know at this hour right now. And so you don't miss anything important, subscribe to the TSN channel, like, and hit the bell. Well, let's get started. Rescuers worked all night at the site where Russian missiles struck in Ternopil. The clearing of debris from residential buildings destroyed by the Russian attack is still ongoing there. At this time, 26 deaths have been reported. Among them are 3 children, and another 93 people have been injured. A 3-day mourning period has been declared in Ternopil. TSN correspondent Svitlana reports from the scene of the tragedy.
Russian missiles and Shaheds attacked people's homes at 7 in the morning. In this building, the occupiers destroyed the top 4 floors.
The sound of Shaheds. It's like a mosquito. At first it flies in the distance, then it gets closer, and when it falls you can clearly hear that it's a Shahed coming down. You could hear the rockets very clearly, the whistling sound of the rockets.
The rescue operation lasted all day. The number of victims kept rising. People under the building are not talkative. They are praying that their loved ones are alive.
I don't know what's happened to them. I don't know if they're on the 6th floor, but I can see their risers. They're intact. Where their apartment is.
Is there any contact with them?
No.
I just came to my sister but stepped aside to make a phone call. Are all your relatives alive? Yes, everything is fine. Can I approach her? I don't know if she'll be able to speak. Almost 200 rescuers worked at the rubble, including dog handlers and psychologists. Ambulances are lined up nearby, and medics are taking away the injured. This is another building that was hit by enemy fire. You can see they're still putting out the fire here, even though it's been 5 to 6 hours since the strikes. There are also dead and wounded here. While some are clearing the rubble in search of people, others are removing debris and covering the windows with plastic sheeting.
Private businesses have come together here. 4 people each, a locksmith, a carpenter. Who else knows how to handle tools? With Klim, we took plastic sheeting and glazing beads. And we're covering the windows to keep it warm.
The industrial warehouses nearby were also attacked. A cloud of smoke hangs over Ternopil. People have put on masks. The concentration of harmful substances exceeds the norm by 6 times. I
want to ask all residents of the Sonyakna district to close their windows and, unless necessary, not go outside. All emergency rescue services are working on site here, and now the residents are starting to have needs. Tiles, building materials, places to stay.
The stalls of a small market next to the houses have also been destroyed.
Some of the goods are damaged, everything is broken. Over there they sell clothes, but most of what we have is cosmetics, all kinds of glass items, perfumes, electronics, everything is broken, as you can see.
So you won't be reopening or working anytime soon?
No, of course we won't be reopening.
The elementary school, which is just a few dozen meters from the bombed-out apartment building, was also damaged.
The windows and doors are damaged. And
the windows,
they're damaged. 20
windows. Both Shaheds and missiles were flying directly into a densely populated residential neighborhood. All schools and kindergartens in this residential area canceled classes or switched to remote learning. Due to damage to the heating network, the neighborhood was left without heating. However, by the afternoon, new air measurements no longer detected any harmful substances. Only an increased level of combustion products was found. Svitlana, Vitaly Pavak, Ternopil, TSN 1+1.
Several districts in the Dnipropetrovsk region came under enemy shelling. In Nikopol district, a business, a fire and rescue unit, passenger cars and private homes were damaged. In Kryvyi Rih district, a home was damaged by a drone strike. In Dnipro, businesses were damaged after being attacked by enemy missiles. There were no casualties. The media are reporting details of a peace plan for Ukraine, allegedly drafted by negotiators from Russia and the United States. Axios reported on it, citing American sources familiar with the details of the document. According to NBC News, the plan was allegedly approved by Donald Trump. The document contains 28 points and envisions territorial concessions from Ukraine in exchange for security guarantees from the United States. According to NBC News, Trump's special envoy, Steve, was involved in developing the plan. Vietkov and Special Representative Kirill Dmitriev participated from the Russian side. The Kremlin has officially denied this already. The media reported on a planned meeting between Volodymyr Zelensky and Steven Vietkov in Istanbul. However, this information was not confirmed. Secretary of State Marco Rubio stated that the United States will continue to develop ideas for peace in Ukraine. TSN correspondent Irina Kondrachuk will tell us how Zelensky's visit to Turkey unfolded.
For more than 2 hours, Presidents Zelensky and Erdogan held a one-on-one conversation, as well as talks with their delegations. The main goal of the visit remains to bring Russia back to the negotiating table, as well as to resume the process of returning Ukrainian prisoners of war home.
During today's negotiations, I emphasized that the Istanbul talks need to be continued. They became a key stage in the diplomatic resolution of the conflict. We believe it is appropriate for the Istanbul process to be resumed in an expanded format.
We are making every effort to resume exchanges of prisoners, to bring home Ukrainian servicemen and civilians who are being held by Russia, including Crimean Tatars and political prisoners, as well as religious prisoners by Russia. Of course, we are working to bring back our abducted Ukrainian children. We have platforms working on this everywhere, including in Turkey. There are all the necessary opportunities for this work. We are grateful for the assistance in bringing our children back. We hope to resume exchanges by the end of the year.
In general, Turkey is always the fourth country in the president's four-day tour, the president's tour. Previously, there were Greece, France, and Spain. The main results include, in particular, new deliveries of missiles for air defense, an agreement on the purchase of combat aircraft, as well as at least €500 million in support and guaranteed gas supplies to Ukraine. So did these results meet expectations? TSN asked the Ukrainian delegation about the preliminary agreements and expectations. In particular, Deputy Head of the President's Office, Ihor Zhovkva, told us that, in fact, they expected less, so they are returning home satisfied. Irina Kondrachuk, Yevhen Litvinenko, TSN 1+1. In
the suspicion announced to Timur Mindich, it refers to the businessman's relationship with the president and his connections with other officials. As part of the anti-corruption operation called Mindich, Mindich was served a notice of suspicion under several articles at once. This is stated in the text of the suspicion, which came into the possession of the publication Zerkalo Tizhnia. In particular, Mindich was notified of suspicion for creating a criminal organization, recruiting members for the criminal organization, obtaining and managing property acquired through criminal means, money laundering, illegal influence on ministers, and controlling financial flows in the energy sector. The suspicion states that Mindich used his friendly relations with Zelensky as well as current and former officials to achieve this. According to the text of the suspicion, Mindich controlled the financial flows in the energy sector with the assistance of Herman Halushchenko, who at that time held the position of head of the Ministry of Energy and later became the Minister of Justice. Moreover, the document states that the businessman influenced not only Halushchenko but also Rustam Umerov, who is now the Secretary of the National Security and Defense Council and was previously the Minister of Defense. The TSN broadcast continues. We remind you that we are waiting for your comments, as well as your subscription, likes, and the notification bell so you don't miss the most important and interesting updates. Well, I'll continue. By a constitutional majority, the Verkhovna Rada dismissed Minister of Justice Herman Halushchenko and Minister of Energy Svitlana Grynychuk, who is one of the figures involved in a corruption scandal concerning the embezzlement of funds in the energy sector. The day before, neither Halushchenko nor Grynychuk showed up at the parliamentary session. Therefore, the deputies voted to summon them to the Verkhovna Rada together with the Prime Minister. However, as is rumored in the corridors, the former ministerial pair has already left the territory of Ukraine. Prime Minister Yulia Sviridenko also ignored the deputies' summons, citing a meeting with the IMF. Instead of her, the person who came to the session hall to answer the MPs' questions was Deputy Prime Minister Taras Kachka. According to him, the Minister of Justice and the Minister of Energy do not have any official business trips, and therefore the current whereabouts of these government officials are unknown. Given the public outcry over the corruption case involving Halushchenko and Grynychuk, the government insists on the dismissal of these high-ranking officials, a move that was ultimately supported by the deputies.
The government of Ukraine will not tolerate any instances of corruption and will respond to them accordingly, without waiting for the completion of any procedures in accordance with criminal proceedings.
The enemy has entered the southern part of Myrnohrad. Our forces have detected up to 30 soldiers in the city and are attempting to eliminate them. The occupiers are also advancing in the Pokrovsk direction. Over the past day, Ukrainian defenders have stopped about 50 assault and offensive actions by the aggressor there. The Russians are also pressing north of Pokrovsk. Fighting has intensified in the Novopavlivka direction as well. There, the occupiers have broken into the village of Novopavlivka, and for now, our forces are unable to completely drive them out of there. The aggressor is also pushing in the Pridneprovsky direction. There, Ukrainian defenders repelled both attacks by the occupiers in the area of the Antonivsky Bridge. The situation is no less difficult near Huliaipol on the Zaporizhzhia front. There, in recent days, we have lost over 100 square kilometers of territory, which is 6 villages. The Russians are forcibly conscripting residents of occupied Henichesk into the Russian army. According to the partisan movement, the enemy has also launched a forced mobilization campaign in the Kherson region. There, the local occupation authorities and commandant's office are arresting people for allegedly minor offenses in order to have a formal pretext for detention. Next, the Russians use threats, pressure, and outright blackmail against local residents to force them to either sign contracts with the Russian army or remain under the threat of further punishment. Let us recall that a few days earlier, the Ukrainian Coordination Headquarters for the Treatment of Prisoners of War reported the following. Since the start of the full-scale invasion of Ukraine in violation of international norms, Russia has forcibly mobilized over 46,000 Ukrainians in the temporarily occupied territories. A golden toilet for 12 million. In New York, an artwork mocking the whims of the rich was sold for a hefty sum. Italian artist Maurizio Cattelan created 2 such pieces in 2016. One of the works was stolen. It could not be found. But the second one, a fully functional toilet made of pure gold, was named America. The artist noted that his work mocks excessive wealth. Who bought such an unexpected lot and why, the auction is not disclosing. The TSN team is keeping track of all the most relevant news. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss our next episodes and stay up to date with all the events. And be sure to comment on everything that interests you and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Have a great Thursday.